Why the men who follow the rules don't always get the reward. Imagine two boys growing up. One is told, be respectful, be loyal, work hard, take care of your family, protect your wife, be a good father, and one day you'll be rewarded with love, respect, and a happy family. The other boy watches reality, and reality seems to tell a completely different story, because when he looks around, the men being admired aren't always the men following those rules. And that's where the confusion begins. The family man archetype. We are constantly told that women want good men, responsible men, loyal men, family orientated men, men who sacrifice for their wives and children. But when many men look at the real world, they often see something very different. And whether you agree or disagree, the contrast is impossible to ignore. Take Lamar Odom. For years, he was the ultimate family man. Everything he did revolved around his wife and children. He built his entire public identity around family. When his wife suffered a stroke, he stood by her side. He talked publicly about helping her through recovery, adjusting to a completely different life, being there when things became difficult. Years later, after suffering his own serious health challenges, including a leg amputation, reports emerged that the relationship had ended. Now, none of us know everything that happened behind closed doors. Relationships are complicated, but many men looked at that story and came away with the same thought. Wait a minute, this guy stayed when things got hard. So what exactly is the lesson here? The Kaka paradox. Then there's Kaka, one of the most admired footballers on the planet. Successful, faithful, family orientated, rich, good looking, religious, the kind of man parents tell their daughters to marry. Yet, one of the most viral relationship stories on the internet involved claims that it was simply too perfect. Whether that's the full story or not isn't even the point. The story spread because millions of men saw it and immediately thought, if Kaka isn't enough, who is? Then there's Corey Hardrict. For years, many people viewed him as the loyal husband supporting his wife, supporting his family. After the divorce, online conversation exploded around the idea that his wife had graduated the marriage. Again, we don't know every detail, but that's not what people focused on. What they focused on was the perception. A man who appeared committed, a man who appeared loyal, a man who appeared supportive, and yet the marriage still ended. The men who break the rules. Now let's look at the other side. The men who seem to ignore the traditional blueprint entirely. The men who don't build their identities around being husbands. The men who don't follow the script and yet somehow remain admired. Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon, multiple children with multiple women, no traditional family structure, yet he's still viewed as successful, still famous, still desired, still relevant. For many observers, that creates a strange contradiction. The man who follows the traditional path doesn't necessarily get the traditional reward, and the man who doesn't follow it doesn't necessarily lose status. Future. Then there's Future, a man whose entire brand is practically built around avoiding commitment. Multiple children with multiple women, songs celebrating freedom rather than family life, yet he's treated like a cultural icon. Millions of fans, millions of followers, millions of listeners. His lifestyle isn't hidden, it's part of his brand. And despite that, the admiration remains. Then there's Elon Musk, children with multiple women, no conventional family structure, yet is widely respected as a visionary, admired by millions, studied by entrepreneurs, followed by investors, celebrated as one of the most influential people on earth. Whether people agree with him or not, his reputation is overwhelmingly tied to achievement, innovation, and success, not his relationship history. The double standard men notice. Now, here's where people get uncomfortable, because this isn't really about these specific men. It's about the pattern, the contrast, the message many men believe they're receiving. On one hand, society says, be dependable, be loyal, be committed, be a provider, be a family man. On the other hand, society often appears to reward something else entirely. Status, influence, power, money, options, freedom. The men with the most choices often receive the most attention. The men with the most influence often receive the most admiration. The man with the most status often receives the most forgiveness. And young men notice this, whether people want them to or not. Good men versus desired men. They notice that being a good man and being a desirable man are not always the same thing. They notice that being respected and being loved are not always the same thing. They notice that being loyal doesn't guarantee loyalty in return. And they notice that life doesn't always reward sacrifice the way fairy tales promise. Values versus guarantees. Now, before anyone misunderstands the point, this isn't saying men shouldn't be loyal. It isn't saying commitment is pointless. It isn't saying family doesn't matter. Far from it. The question is much deeper than that. The question is whether we've confused values with guarantees. Being a good father is valuable, but it doesn't guarantee a perfect life. Being a loyal husband is valuable, but it doesn't guarantee a lifelong marriage. Being a good person is valuable, but it doesn't guarantee a happy ending. Life doesn't work that way. The reality nobody likes. And maybe that's the lesson most people struggle to accept. The universe doesn't keep score. There is no cosmic referee handing out trophies for sacrifice. You can do everything right and still get hurt. You can make mistakes and still succeed. You can be loyal and still experience betrayal. You can build a family and still lose it. That's not cynicism. That's reality. The lesson. And once you understand that, something interesting happens. You stop being good because you expect a reward. You stop being loyal because you're guaranteed an outcome. You stop sacrificing because you think the universe owes you something. Instead, you do those things because they are part of who you are, because they are your values, because they're the kind of man you choose to be, not because of what you might get in return. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. The final question. Because at the end of the day, the question isn't whether the family man wins. The question isn't whether the playboy wins. The question isn't whether the billionaire wins. The real question is this. Are men being sold a story about what is rewarded, while society rewards something completely different? And if that's true, what should men be optimizing for in the first place?